Hi YouTubers, welcome to my channel Tamiya Truck Building. If you don't know me, I'm Colin. This is part 6 of my tipper build, which covers off stages 14 to 16, building the two rear axles. I'd like to say thank you to all that take the time to send me kind comments on my videos, especially Carmine, who in the last video prompted me to go rummaging in the garage for a tin full of nut drivers. After an age using the Tamiya wheel nut driver, I found a set of nut drivers to make the job easier. I'm kicking myself as I've had these for an age and forgot all about them. Oh well, just shows there's always room for improvement, eh? Anyway, enough rabbit, on with the build. In this part you'll see the diffs I built get encased with their drive shafts ready to install on the rear axles. This is step or stage 14, which is where we build the diff shafts, put the bearings on them, and we also put the stub output shafts on the outer casings. These next three sections, which cover off building the diff shafts, rear axle A and rear axle B, can be quite confusing, and some people put the axles on the vehicles the wrong way around and do all sorts of things. All I can say to you with the greatest respect is take it slowly, study the diagrams first, so that you are absolutely 100% happy with what you're doing and that it follows the instructions. Okay, that's enough of a self-righteous rant. Within this particular section there are no less than 14 bearings. Now, Tamiya tell you to fit no less than 10 of these, I think they're phosphor bronze, solid bearings, but only 4 of the exact same size bearing as a ball race, a moving bearing. I'm sure you can see all these over here. You can buy 1150 and 1260 bearings off the internet quite cheaply. You buy a pack of them, pack of 10 or whatever it might be. That's what I've got left at the moment, which including the 4 in the Tamiya pack is 21, so it'll be more than enough for what I want to do. But what I plan to do is replace the 10 of these with 10 of those. In case you're wondering about what 1150 means, it's actually quite simple. If we just use this vernier, the outer diameter, as you can see, 10.9, 11 millimeters, so there's the 11, and the inner size, if I can get it to just go in, 4.95. So the 1150 refers to 11 millimeter outside diameter and 5 millimeters inside diameter, and 1260, 12 wide, 6 millimeter hole in the middle. There's one place where you don't substitute the bearings, and that is when you build the gearbox. Tamiya do not recommend that you use, just looking to where it says it somewhere in the instructions, don't substitute the bearings, but you can do on the diff shafts, and obviously these outer shafts are rotating all the time, so why not use a bearing where there's less friction. And you can also use them on the front wheels, which we'll come on to later as well. The back wheels have a different setup and don't require bearings anyway. Anyway, let's just get on with this. First thing I'm going to do is just put the shafts together inside these, and what it says here is to make 2, obviously. There's the 2 shafts and the 2 of those, and there needs to be 11 of these circlips, which I apologise I haven't got out in advance. Let's see if I can just pick them up out of here all right. normally got all my parts done ahead of the video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where do I have them? There we go. 6, 7, 8, 9. 1 under there I've just spotted. 10. Where's number 11? Can you see me, number 11? Where are you? There it is at the corner. Right, 11 of those. And those are the bevel gears we need, which I've already put in here. There are 3 of these. Quite simply because you'll get one from the first diff. Sorry, there's 2 in the first diff and only 1 in the back diff because it doesn't drive through any further. It's a twin axle. So, grease. Let's get going and stop waffling. First thing we need to do is put a circlip on the inside end of this shaft. Check your shafts. There's 2 different shafts. There's one with a long thread on it like that, yeah, and there's another one that's got the pointed end on it as well. This one is clearly showing it to be this shaft. No, it isn't. It's showing it that's been that shaft, and that one's that shaft. See how easy it is to get it the wrong way around? Check, check, check. My tried and tested way of getting these on here, which you should hopefully see on camera. It'll be close to the edge of the camera, but oops. Let's try and do it a bit down here instead. There we go. Try and get your circlip upright and just use a little bit of pressure. You can certainly do that with these bigger 4mm clips, no problem at all. So that'll be your first one to do there. There are then bearings to go on here, ×2, and another circlip at the end. I'm going to fit those first. So let's put 2 bearings on. Yes, they need to be greased, but you can do the grease on the shaft once they're in place, so getting it all over your hands. And another clip at the other end. There you go. We now have 2 bearings on there. We need to put grease on here and on here. Well, they tell you to put grease on that end actually because it's one of the solid bearings. Because this is a roller bearing, you don't have to. So it's just this inner piece that we need to do, where it goes inside the diff. So just put a little bit of grease on there. Don't need much. Inside there. Turns nice and freely. When it goes in the plastic casing, the bearings will sit like that. The other shaft over here needs to have clips on it, so we're going to do that one don't want to get out. Come on, gotcha. Didn't have my Weetabix this morning. Has that gone on? Yes, that's in the shaft. If you can turn it, it's in the shaft. If it's solid, chances are it hasn't quite gone down far enough. Exactly the same on this side. We've got 2. We've got 2 bearings. Okay. Grease on your hands, you can't pick anything up. 2 bearings on there. And another circlip on this side. I'll do it just on the edge of here, which I think you can. Yeah, you can. I just had a quick look on my computer monitor to see if it's within camera, which it is. Get it where you want it first and push it down, lock it into place, Again, if you're using the roller bearings, you won't need to put any grease in there. If you are using these, you will need to, because that inner race doesn't turn. Now on here, on this particular one, we need to put some grease on here. This is the part that goes inside the diff. Okay, and that goes inside there up to that circlet, and there you have it. There's your two shafts in place ready to go inside the plastic casings, and it tells you to make 2 of those. That's exactly what I'm going to do, and I shall speed up this little part so that because you've already seen it obviously. The last bit of stage 14 will be to put bearings in these parts here and the input-output shafts. This can be a bit confusing. For this side here it says make 2, and obviously for that side it's make 1, and that's because you've got 3 shafts, not 4. The 4th one is the rear casing that essentially, you know, one like that and one like that. Now, what I do before I take these off the sprue, because they're marked up as A1 and A3 and A2, I think it's A2 over the page, yeah, A2, is using my trusty indelible pen again and mark them up. That's a 1, that's a 1, 3 and a 2. Stops you getting confused. Yeah. Another thing you can do when you look at the diagrams here is note that a couple of them have got these little raised sections here, which are the bump stops on the chassis. You can see that one's got quite long ones on it, number 2. Yeah, that's the one right at the back, and these are the ones at the front which are a little bit shorter. Interestingly, it looks like one's shorter than the other, but hey ho. Right, let's get down to it. So I want A1, which I've got to make 2 of. So there's my A1s. Let's do those first. A couple of bearings, and again they tell you to put grease on the shaft. That's because they're suggesting you should fit those. I'm not. I'm fitting roller bearings in here, but I will still put some grease around the collar of that for when it goes in. We need to use the circlips again, so let's just do one of these, shall we? These bearings just press into place, try and get them nice and level, and then they will go in. If you get it off kilt slightly, it won't go in. As you can see, it goes in pretty flush. One on the other side as well, which also goes in as far as you can push it. Yep. Now, when you put the shaft in, that's going to revolve against that. So I'm just going to put a bit of grease around that edge there. Drop that in there, like so. And what holds that in place now is a circlip. This one I'm going to use my trusty long nose pliers for. Put a fair bit of pressure on and they're done. As you can see, that runs quite freely, and that's number one. So that's I'm just going to mark it up again because I've rubbed most of it off. That's number one, and that's number one. So I'm just going to repeat the process for this one now. 2 bearings to go in here, one in the front, if you don't get that rear one in square, like I didn't there, it takes a bit of pushing in to get it in flat, but it's gone in now. Okay, touch of grease on the inside. Put one of these shafts through, they're all the same. That revolves, the grease should hold it in place for you. Clip on. That one's turning freely. So that's the 2 A1s done. Now the one I've got to do now is an A3, obviously, because there isn't a hole in that one anyway. So another 2 bearings. All the way in. All the way in. Bit of grease on there because that does spin against that face. How many washers have I got left in here? Just the one. Which is correct because this is the last one to do. Clunk. And that one spins freely as well. So that concludes 14. 2 there, 1 there, 2, 1. And what we'll be doing now is moving on to connecting all this lot together. Moving on to stage 15 will be to first of all put together the front axle, front of the rear axles, rear axle A as it's called, excuse me. In fact, I'll start again. Moving on to stage 15, rear axle A. So there's the inner bit. We've got all the parts here we need to put the outer casings together, and then it's going to have one of these on the front and one on the back to transfer the transmission through to the back one. So we need an A, which is number 1. Just make sure that we get it the right way around. If you look, you can see that this bulbous part here is this side, so that would be the correct way around for that part. Yep, that's that one there. Now B, the other side here, this one, you'll notice And the diagrams are ever so good. I mean, there's actually a smaller one there and a larger one that side. So that's the way round that one goes, and obviously the bulbous part has got to match there. So that's how it's going to go. So, oops, daisy. Pop that back in again. What we're going to do is just move out the bearings so that they're ends of each shaft. Yeah, and that's going to go in there like that. Before we do it, grease on here. And plenty of grease on this one. There we go. And that will drop in there like that, and there are little places where they drop in. You'll know they're in the right place because they'll drop in quite nicely like that. Yeah, that one goes on the other side, and these actually clip together, although that won't hold them together. That'll just do you for the moment. You can see how nice and smooth that turns. No tight spots or anything. Excellent. The side that has the nuts has got hexagonal cutouts in it, and every one of these has to have thread lock on it. That's the length of the screws we're going to be using, and that's the nuts. So first things first, we'll just get one into place. There's one in there. Try and put just a touch of thread lock on there, just like that, that's all we need. Get the nut into place. Oh. There we go. And the bigger screwdriver for this, as these are 3mm screws. Once you've got one in place, it's not going to come apart on you. Again, they don't need to be massively tight because you're putting the thread lock on them. And that's it. Put another one in here. Small bit of thread lock. Nut in place. And away we go. Thread lock. Nut. There's no order to tighten these up. Just as long as they're all done up a similar amount, you won't distort the case. Come on. Just a touch, not too much. There we go. I still prefer using the liquid one to the gel one that comes in the little tubs. And this will be front axle A. When you come to fit these, they could be fitted either way around because they mount on top of these. You need to, we'll come on to that, but you need to be extra careful. You don't mount it the wrong way around, because if you do, I think most of us have seen it on the social media pages, people saying that the one axle turns the wrong way. How are we doing? 2 left to do. And 2 knots. Here we go. Nearly built the rear powertrain. After we've done these, we move on to the gearbox, which according to some of the comments I've received, scares the life out of some people. Again, I don't find it any different to doing things like the axle. You've just got to do it methodically, slowly, following the instructions, and you won't go wrong. 2, 4, 6, 8. That spins beautifully, that does. Yeah. I'll turn the other gears. If we turn these, should turn the shaft. There we go. That's great. So we need to now just put these on. Now these are held on with these 2 little grub screws and some thread lock. So we put a little bit in there, and we put a little bit in there. There we go. And the instructions tell you to, maybe try to put it on there then. Instructions tell you to put these firmly on the, tighten these firmly on the shafts. So where's my little trusty tool? There's a flat on there. Obviously got thread lock on it, but it still needs to be done up tight. There we go. That's one done. The other one's going on there. Just line that up with a flat and we can see that inside. Pretty much where it needs to be. Just moved slightly, so I was just checking that's still where I want it to be. That's spot on and tight. There you go. One diff assembly. Rear axle A complete. Stage 16 then is completing the second of the rear axles, or rear axle B as Tamir referred to it. It has some grease all the way around here. The process of putting this one together will be exactly the same as the previous one, except you'll only have one out, well, an input shaft. You won't have an output shaft, because it's the rear one. So, here we go. Let's make sure we get it the right way around. So one shaft is longer than the other, and the bearing positions are different. Right the first time. Get those where I want them. Drop into the spaces where they're supposed to go. There we go. We are in. Okay. This will only obviously go on one way around. so that the casing profile matches up. Here we go. Once again, 8 screws, 8 nuts with thread lock. Come on. I suppose that's the one thing about using the gel. I'm going to wait for it to come squeezing out of a tube, but I still prefer this to the gel. If you've not seen the gel, I'm sure you probably have, but this is what they supply with the kit. So I prefer to use this one. I'm going to do 2 at once here. Scary. 1, 2. Because they're right next to each other. There's 1. There's 2. Let's see if I can do this, shall we? I'm working backwards now with my left hand. If I can just get them started, I'm laughing. There we go. Beautiful. Yeah, I can still remember the first one of these that I built, and they were rather notchy, these things were. And I ended up taking them apart and doing what I've showed you, which is to file the gear tops. Because if you think about it, if they are notchy, you will notice it's at very slow running speeds. And I do tend to run my trucks at very slow speeds, which is more scale realistic. In fact, dear old Tamiya get you to put together a 3-speed gearbox, and I've yet to meet anybody who uses 3rd gear. Imagine 3rd gear with the standard stock Tamiya motor running at, oh dear, that dropped out, running at twice the RPM of this motor. It would go like the clappers. Which, I don't particularly like hitting anything at speed with these expensive models. First gear I use all the time, sometimes 2nd gear, but rarely, I don't think I ever use 3rd gear. Dropped out again, not my day. Get in there. Just going to use a cloth that just spilled a bit of thread lock on, well, a bit of tissue. Bit of thread lock off there. How did he want to do? That one there. And then it'll be that and that. And job done. Thread lock. Slowly running out of this, I'm going to have to order myself some more, I think. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? There you go. Beautifully smooth. And put that away and forgot I've got to thread lock this one. I don't mind if there's a bit too much in that one. It's you need to ensure that it's going to not come undone. And that will go on here in one set place only, which is there. Make sure you do it up tight. It moved on me. Oops, a daisy. There we go. That completes stage 16. So we now have both of those, and in stage 17 we'll be fitting them to the chassis. That's it for this episode, YouTubers. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you at the next one.